She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. Thanks so much for joining us today. Hey, it's Family Friday. This is that day of the week where we put a focus on our families and learning to succeed greater with our families, no matter what our family might look like. You know, I had somebody one time often when I was in London, is actually a woman who's a former rock and roll star from the 80s turned pastor now, leading a church in Manchester, where she had said about just even the church in general. She's like, Dani, we're all brothers and sisters now, and we're all family. And, you know, sometimes we got some of them family members that, well, you know, she says, but we're still family and we still got to love each other. Oh, boy, was she just so telling the truth that you can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends. And in some cases, some of us pick additional family members to add to it. And so when it comes to the family front and being able to succeed wildly in our family life, even if we're a blended family, in fact, that's what we're going to talk about today, the blended family, the good, bad, and the ugly. We've asked our audience if they came from a blended family, if they have one right now, or were they a step child, a step sibling. Check this out. These numbers were shocking to me when I saw them. 1,300 new step families are created every day. What? That's according to the U.S. Census Bureau. 1,300 new step families are formed every single day. Gosh, that's a crazy amount, isn't it? And check this out. Over 65% of Americans are either a step parent, a stepchild, or a step sibling. That's according to KSL.org. Wow. I had no idea, honestly. I mean, within our own family, there's a whole lot of that. There's, you know, blended. I mean, when Hans and I first got together, I had already had a child from my high school sweetheart. And so, you know, I guess that is sort of a blended family. I never really even saw it that way, to be quite honest with you. I'm sure he did. But he's always loved my daughter, Christina, as though she was his own child. And same with the other 4 kids that Hans and I ended up having together, has always loved their older sister as though she had the same exact blood relation, like all the way through. So again, I mean, she's my child and that, anyway, whatever. So I guess Hans is technically her stepfather. But anyway, so I haven't really thought about that much. But when I saw these numbers, it's just crazy. And then, of course, within our family, we've got, you know, divorces and, you know, and divorces again. And then, you know, his kids and her kids, and, you know, then it's our kids thing. But I know that it creates some crazy family dynamics. So we asked, you know, are you one of those? What is good? What is bad? How have you made it work? You know, how can we help families today of that are blended families to be able to have more peace? Or what do we find that does work in this situation? Co-parenting is a major issue too, because if we're a step family, that means that there were other partners involved beforehand. So it's even managing those other relationships. There's a lot of dynamics. And from what I've witnessed within my own family is it can be really dramatic. All right, so we have Michelle from California. So Michelle, are you guys a blended family?
Yeah, we are a blended family. I would say we probably have every aspect. To give you a little history, me and my husband have been married for 14 years, together for 18.
Nice.
We were both, when we entered into marriage, we both had a child of our own and have now since had 2 more of our own.
Wow.
So we're pretty blended.
So how old was your child? What was it, a boy or a girl?
My daughter was 4.
Okay, and then his
son was 18 months old.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, and did you guys have full custody of both of the kids?
No. So we had shared custody on my side for my daughter, and we had a very sporadic visitation originally with his son, who we developed into shared custody.
Okay, awesome. All right, so what would you say out of the entire scope of everything that you just shared was the biggest challenge that you had, something that you had to learn in order to make it work?
Patience. Compassion. I think that your job as a parent, as the mother of your own children, it's very, it's not as difficult. But from the standpoint as a stepmother or a step-parent, because I think my husband can vouch for that too, that sometimes there's trials where you feel like you're expected to hold the job of a parent without necessarily having the full
authority,
capability of discipline, and there's so many other dynamics involved, and that can be very challenging in your home unit. So
right.
I was blessed on my side that with my daughter, we had a very cohesive co-parenting situation. And so he honored my husband as well when we entered into marriage. And so what stood...
Wait. Time out. I want to... Hold on. When you say that your second husband honored your first husband as the father of his stepdaughter, what did that look like?
It was actually... they both honored each other, I have to say. There was a mutual respect.
Wow.
And so it was weird. I have to tell you, so many people were like, "That's weird. That's not normal," And for me, it made parenting so much easier because me and my ex, we didn't always agree, but we did have very specific rules, and that was if a discipline was given, it was upheld in both homes. If we didn't agree with something, we didn't discuss it with the child. That was discussed between each other,
right.
And he thought as well as, my husband was filling in for a role for him when he wasn't there, and he saw it as a partner and a helper.
Wow.
And so it was actually for quite a few years, it was very, very, very good. They had a very great relationship. So we all did.
That's amazing. That is like crazy.
Yeah.
That shows a lot of humility on both their parts and character.
Right. I mean, you have to be compassionate to all parties, as parents. When you are multiple, not just two working together, you're now involving more. And it can be very challenging because on the other end, we didn't have that. Me in the step-parent role, there was not that cohesive relationship with the ex. So we definitely had some trials and such, so...
Right. So you're saying with his ex-wife or the mother of his child, what were the dynamics there? She didn't want to talk to you, wanted nothing to do with you, like what?
We found that there was a lot of manipulation and unfortunate situations that the child was put into, my son was put into, and it was unfavorable circumstances, and so we found ourselves constantly battling those issues. Are we just being parents who are we just being overbearing? Are we trying to be controlling, or is there a real problem here? So we were constantly measuring against the situation. Like, is this something that we take and we argue or, through, or do we just let this go? There was a lot of things that happened over the years. So there was some serious issues we dealt with. There was abuse and some drug use on the other side, and so we dealt. It's very difficult to deal with that.
Yeah,
raising a child 50% of the time in that environment.
Yeah. That's a whole different set of values for sure. And then, of course, where there's drugs, largely there's going to be manipulation and control, which is really hard. That's a terrible dynamic. Now, how do you think that the other two kids that you and your husband had together, how do you think they perceive the older ones? Are they steps? Well, they're halves, so there's a half brother and a half sister. Do they call each other that?
No. We always worked as a cohesive unit that way. My family, I was very blessed when we got married. There was no separation of your child and my child, your grandchild, or the step-grand. There was none of that.
That's awesome.
When we entered into this relationship, it was long before marriage. We treated all the kids the same, and so even the little ones, my two little ones, I have a 5 and a 7-year-old now. They see them as brother and sister. They know no difference, other than they don't completely understand the dynamic of them having a different parent.
Yep.
Because they have the same parent.
Yeah, exactly.
But we don't really see it see it any differently.
Yep.
So
yeah, so I know that's completely possible, and it's really on how the family in the beginning chooses to address it. It's the same for us. Our daughter had married a man who had 2 kids. Unfortunately, my daughter was involved in these 2 kids' lives since they were babies. There was also drug issues from the mother at that at the time, and both the parents had lost custody of their kids. My daughter ends up having a child with one of them, and then inherits 2 others. And I've known those 2 kids since they were babies, and I've loved them. And it's such a weird thing that even having this conversation with you right now, technically I am their step grandmother. But that is so not how we've been with them. That's so not how we've treated them. That's so not how I even see them still to this day. They're my grandchildren, and I love and adore them the same way that I love the other 6 kids that are my grandchildren. And so it's funny because I know I kind of caught you off guard. Do they see it any different? Like, no. And it really is, because when somebody makes that separation, like, well, that's your stepmother or that's your half brother, it's the same for mine, because the 4 kids have the same mom and dad in our house, and then Christina has a different dad, but the kids never, that just wasn't a thing. It's just, this is our family. This is who we are. And so I think it's a really important thing for unity to be spoken, and that when somebody tries to one up, especially if it's a kid, like, well, you have a different dad. Or, my mom is my mom. She's not really your mom. That kind of stuff's got to get nipped in the bud, because it's a family. It's a family unit who have decided to come together, to grow together, to lead life with each other. And the only way that can happen is through unity. And so it's really important for honor and respect to prevail, also for understanding and compassion and lots of communication, especially in a blended family, 1,300 step families are created every single day. Wow. That's like, hello, think about it. That's not just, mom and dad, not getting along and deciding to part ways and then to remarry. But that's like a lot of lives. It's not just the parent's life. Even in the situation that I'm in at this very moment, that when there's a divorce that happens and there's kids involved and you're the grandparent, like it's like, wait, okay, you two might have decided you can't get along together, but I love those people. You know what I mean? I love those people, and I worked my butt off to build relationship with those people. I can't just go, I'm out. No way. So my position even in that is like, I'm going to love you to the end. Yeah. Anyway, this is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
In your face and in your corner. You've never had a coach like this before. This is the Dani Johnson Show. More resources, more training, more results. The DaniJohnson.com Insider Membership is your ultimate success shortcut. Get exclusive access to reports, videos, audios, ebooks, cheat sheets, and other training for your personal and professional life. This is truly DaniJohnson.com's best kept secret. Become an Insider member today and get on the fast track to success.
Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what poverty-stricken families are dealing with in Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic needs of food, clean water, and safe housing. But a miracle is in the making, and you can be a part of transforming Nicaragua. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Nicaragua. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org.
Did you know you can take the Dani Johnson Show with you wherever you go? It's never been easier to stay up to date with the latest content from Dani with the DaniJohnson.com app. Watch or listen in the car, at the gym, or on the go. Download it now from the App Store and Google Play and never miss a show again. Your family, business, and bank account will thank you.
Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. The most common question I get usually are from people who are trying to juggle their life. They've got kids. They've got kids who are involved in all kinds of activities. They've got business or their job, finances, trying to get out of debt, plus all their church activities and all the volunteer activities. And they're pulling their hair out going, how do I juggle this all? Man, I once lived just like that until I learned Time Secrets. Time Secrets showed me how to be able to cut my hours from 100 hours a week that I was working down to 20 hours a week and tripled my income as a direct result with what I learned. Time Secrets also showed me how to get my priorities in order, which healed up my marriage. And I became a mother that I was proud of versus becoming the mother I didn't want to be. And so if you feel like your world is running around in all kinds of different circles, you can fix that. Call 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880 for Time Secrets.
It's time to take on a whole new mindset. And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
According to Stepmom Magazine, can you believe that there's a magazine called Stepmom Magazine? Like, that just blows my mind. But according to them, they've done a study and found out that up to 73% of remarriages involving children result in a divorce. It fails. You see, a remarriage with children creates a lot of dynamics. The co-parenting, the management of multiple different families that are now involved, right? The high levels of drama, the people that don't agree. Come on, like, you know, a family, a husband and wife gets a divorce because they don't agree on things. So then they go remarry someone else. And now all these four people have to somehow agree on something. And now we've got the kids involved. It's a mess. It's a mess. However, families are doing it. Some successfully, some not so successfully. Here on the Dani Johnson Show today, it is Family First Friday. And we're bringing you tips on how that if you are one of those, 1,300 families today that were created as a step family, and or that you're one of the 65% of the Americans, and even in other countries, I'm sure the numbers are similar in other countries as well, especially our neighbor in Canada and maybe also in Europe. But that you find yourself in that place, you know, like you're one of those step families. What are you doing that's working? What are you doing that's not working? So we've got Graham from Pennsylvania. Graham, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Thank you, Dani.
So you grew up in a step family, or what do you? Is it wrong for me to say that?
No, it is. It is what it is. Yeah, I had one blood brother. We were 15 months apart. He's 15 months younger, and then I had two older sisters and an older brother. But the one older sister I didn't meet till I was probably about 19 or 20.
Yeah, that was one of those.
Yeah, we're still not sure, but you know, we just accept her as sister. So.
Well, guess what? I was one of those. I was one of those. Yeah, like I was given up for adoption by my father, and so I never knew him until I was 18, and I was like, knock, 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 hi. So, no, seriously, I have a sister who still does not believe that I am my dad's, even though there's been a DNA test, even though I look just like my siblings on my father's side, even though there is just absolutely no question. My sister and I are like twins. My other sister and I, you could take our heads off and switch them, and you would not know whose body was whose. That's how crazy the DNA is and the genetics of my father is. But anyway, so I know what it's like to be on the other side of going, I'm not sure. We don't accept you. So watch it, buddy. Anyway, so you grew up in that family where it's like, wow, mom and dad had kids from other people, and then there's you and your brother. What did you think about that? How was it growing up in that environment?
You know, my brother and my older brother and my older sister, Brian and Sarah, they were my brother and sister. They came and went a lot. Like, there was times where when they would go through hard times, and you hear that classic, like, I'm going to live with my dad, or I'm going to live with my mom. And I can remember going through that, and that was really emotional.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, we had a pretty normal dysfunctional family.
That is so perfect. You know why? Check this out. Do you know that there is the only kind of family that is in the Bible is dysfunctional?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. That's all that's in the Bible is straight up dysfunction. There isn't a single so-called functional family. That's why I laugh whenever I hear someone say dysfunctional. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. It's like, so did everybody else. And so did everybody in the Bible, because there isn't a single, right, think about it. Okay, there's the Abraham. Let's start with Abraham, right? Okay, this makes a lot of sense. He first of all lies and calls his wife his sister, so then she ends up with some other leader of some nation, right? And then his wife has a suggestion. Listen, I can't give you any kids. Why don't you sleep with my friend? She'll give you a kid. Like, okay, because that's going to work. Like, and then he takes his son that he eventually has with his old broad wife who's 80, and he tries to kill him on top of a mountain. Like, this is jacked up. No matter which way you slice it. And then, of course, there are the sons of Israel, right? Who, the daughter ends up tricking the father-in-law to sleep with her, and she gets pregnant with twins, and he's about to kill her. And he didn't even know that he slept with her because she, like, covered her face and tried to act like she was a prostitute. Oh my gosh. It kind of makes your dysfunctional family look normal.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before, that the Bible is full of juicy details.
They are. Well, and it's
can't get around it.
No, we can't. And it's so funny because we see the Bible as, oh, it's holy. No, holy does not mean perfect at all, right? There's so many of them. What about King David? He's being hunted down by his father-in-law. For why? Jealousy? Okay, my father wants to kill me. Great. Hold on. I want to continue to talk to you in a minute. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Be sure to tell a friend about the Dani Johnson Show. It just might be the key to the breakthrough they need. Stay right here for more of the Dani Johnson Show.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success.
Did you know you can see Dani Johnson live and in person? Go to DaniJohnson.com and find out about our next live event. First Steps to Success. Register today. Call 866-760-8255 or go to DaniJohnson.com/FSTS.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was working 60 to 75 hours a week. I was completely stressed out. I was incredibly angry with my husband. We were in over $350,000 worth of debt. By applying the strategies that Dani teaches, in the last 3.5 years, we have paid off $170,000 in debt. We are no longer roommates, and we no longer spend every single cent that we make. We now have made tens of thousands of dollars in passive income in investments. We are on the right track. We're traveling around the world together, and we are building homes for those who really need it. So I don't know about you, but if you want to cut back from 60 to 20 and 30 hours a week, if you want to mend some relationships, if you want to make your life more efficient and a lot more fun, and you want to be the best version of you, I highly recommend that you get registered because your life is about to change.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, First Steps to Success in Creating Dynasty, my wife and I were really lost. We were struggling in a relationship. We were struggling financially, drowning in debt. Our relationship was really broken. We were in a bad place. We were living in two completely different states and not really honoring each other. Once we got plugged into the community, we noticed a shift in our lives. Most importantly, we came together as a husband and wife. That was the first thing we did. And when we finally came together under the same roof, things started to change. Over the past 3 years, we've been able to pay off over $495,000 in debt. I know in my business, I've had a job created for me that increased my income by 50%. That has actually opened up the door to allow my wife and I to spend more time with each other. So I don't know where you are. I don't know if your relationship is super awesome awesome. I don't know if your job is immaculate. I don't know if you're debt-free. But what I do know is if you're not any one of those things, your next step is to get plugged into DaniJohnson.com. Go on the website, get plugged into the community. I promise you, your life will never be the same.
Prior to plugging into DaniJohnson.com, I was a broke college student, drowning in debt, and I felt like the world was crashing all around me, and I had bad relationships. Since plugging into DaniJohnson.com and First Steps to Success, I was able to pay off $6,600 in 4 months. Now I'm able to give 10% of my income to wherever my heart desires. I actually, using the skills that I learned from Dani, I actually landed a job before I graduated college, and I'm able to travel the world. All I know is if you're serious about annihilating your debt, traveling the world, helping people, and having fun doing so, I highly recommend you get registered for the next First Steps to Success. Do it now, don't wait, don't even thinking about it. If you're ready to change your life, just do it.
We went to our first ever First Steps to Success just 10 weeks ago, and it has definitely been life-changing ever since.
We felt like we got hit by a 2x4, but it was the best 2x4 because what we realized is that our priorities were clearly out of line. I had been building a home-based business and had been working 80 to 100 hours, and I realized that that is not my role, and that I had actually taken my husband's, and it was that realization that something had to change, and we immediately went home and changed everything. There was no hesitation. We said, you know what, we need to be obedient to God.
And we've implemented the tools day one. We started implementing what Dani taught us, invested in ourselves, invested in our kids, got our priorities in line. We've now actually paid off just not quite $60,000 in debt and looking at a couple more investments here as head of the household.
It's been absolutely incredible. So I just encourage you, if any of this speaks to you, if you're wanting to get out of debt, if you're wanting better communication, if you're wanting to elevate to the higher level of life, get to First Steps to Success and plug into DaniJohnson.com.
What multimillionaire do you know that volunteers their time to help ordinary people like you and me? There's only one. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Blended families. Good, bad, and the ugly. That's what we're talking about today on the Dani Johnson Show because it's Friday and it's Family First Friday. No matter if the family is functional or dysfunctional, my opinion is we're all jacked up. And I just see it crystal clear in the Bible where there's just family after family. It's just a mess. In fact, if you read that from a family perspective, if you read the Bible from a family perspective, the problems your family is having look like nothing. They look like nothing. Oh my gosh, nothing. We got Graham joining us from Pennsylvania. Okay, so you were saying that, so you grew up in like the full-on blended family, and you were saying that you remember as a young child that when you're, whenever there'd be contention, with one of the kids and the parent, they'd be like, I'm going to go live with my dad, I'm going to go live with my mom, and that was hurtful for you. Tell me about that. Was it confusing? Did it make you lonely? I mean, tell me how that felt. Because I'm experiencing something like that with some family members right now, where kids have been ripped away because of a divorce, because of infidelity, honestly. Infidelity that led to divorce, and then now here's these poor kids who now have been ripped away from each other, and it's terrible. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I would describe it really simply as if for me, it felt like rejection from my older sibling. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it really was as simple as that. Whether that was that or not, I mean, they're, of course, right in the middle of it. Yeah. But for me, it just felt like, why don't you guys want to live with us or be a part of this family? Why do you want to go?
Wow.
So it felt like rejection for, I think, probably for me and my younger brother. I've never really talked to my younger brother about it. I'd be curious if you'd feel.
But you're saying you internalize that as you being rejected, even though maybe you didn't even have anything to do with it.
Exactly.
Wow. That hurts. That's really, really painful. Okay, so fast forward, you're now a grown man.
Yes, I'm now a grown man, and I'm married to a beautiful wife, Orion. We have, she came into the marriage with an 11-year-old daughter, and I came into the marriage with a 6-year-old son. Actually, he was 4 at the time, and Gabriella would have been 9. Mm-hmm. They're 6 and 11 now. And now it's kind of funny because I was just thinking about, I've heard some of these same phrases now that I grew up with, hearing in my own family, and I have made a lot of mistakes as a stepdad, I would say. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I think that I did right was when we first got married, we got our kids together and we brought some friends over, and we had the grandparents over, and we printed out these certificates of adoption, and we had an adoption ceremony for our kids. And that was really special. And every time that, if my daughter tells me, you're not my dad, which I'm sure no other parent has ever heard that parent. I get to hold up that piece of paper and I said, no, I was there and we got witnesses. you signed this paper and you know that I love you.
Wow.
So it's that was a really, really good thing. But I also made some excuses, and I didn't realize it actually until thinking about this show today and this topic. And Father God kind of brought it up to me. I used to use the excuse like, blended families they're not God's design. This wasn't God's design. And God severely corrected me on it. Yeah. And he said, don't you understand that you're adopted? Yes. So, like going back to the juicy Bible part, I mean, God hates divorce, and yet he's divorced, and then we look at adoption like this isn't natural, and yet we're adopted. Yes. So this whole thing is just kind of beautiful chaos. But I know that wasn't the effect of this, but I feel like going now forward, just preparing for this show and thinking about it and reflecting, I really feel like I'm actually going to be a better stepdad now because of that kind of correction.
Yes. And you know what, Graham, I'm really glad you're saying this because last summer I had a really powerful experience with my Father in heaven. And it had to do with my adoption that I had just found out about about a month before I had this encounter with my God in heaven. And it was really interesting because all I had ever seen that my stepfather was so mean to me. He was so mean. And he adopted me when I was 8 years old. And I found out the story for the first time. And there I was, 48 years old, hearing from my biological father, who is my daddy. He is my dad. My dad and I are so, so close. And we met almost 31 years ago. And so what happened was that he had told the story about how it happened, that, he had paid child support for me, and he had gone to see my older sister, Maria. Maria and I have different dads than the rest of his 5 children. And so when he went to meet Maria for the second time, because he met her when she was a baby, he had never met me as a baby. But yet he had married my mom, and was on my birth certificate, and paid child support for years. And so when he met Maria, he wanted to go live with her, but he couldn't pay child support for me. So he called my mom and he says, listen, your daughter calls somebody else daddy. Why doesn't he adopt her and I'll pay for it? And I have to tell you, I was like, when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh. And so I was around a bunch of family when he said this, and we were just all joking around. And when that came out, it was like a knife. It really was. And it was a beautiful thing that came out of it because he and I got to work through immediately, where he just told me he was sorry. I forgave him right away. But a month later, I was in a place of reflection and prayer. And the way I had always seen Dan, the man who raised me, who molested me, who violently beat me, who violently beat my mother and my sisters, who screamed at me constantly, who verbally abused me, mentally abused me, all that stuff. All I ever saw was the bad that he was in me. And as I was journaling about this, Graham, this is going to make a big difference for you. And I really feel like this is for you because I've never told this story on air. What God had shown me, that yes, I was adopted, right? But that Dan chose me. He chose me. That my biological father was not ready to be a father to me and a bunch of other kids at that time. But Dan willingly chose me. And that was even so much more special than a biological father raising me. That even in all of his mistakes, I began to then see like, oh my gosh, he was hard on me because he loved me. He harped on me about my grades. He tried to plant vision in me about going to college. He said, you're going to be the first one in the family to go to college. You don't want to be stupid. And he'd tell me that I was stupid, and then he'd tell me that he didn't want me to be stupid. But he was harder on me than he was my sisters. And I got in more trouble than my sisters, not because I was a bad kid, but because he had this perfection standard set for me that he didn't have for his own blood daughters. It was as though he believed that there was something unique inside of me. So I ended up calling my mom, and I asked her about it. And I said, for example, after my mom had broken her neck and now that we were not on welfare, all of a sudden I have this big giant canopy bed, and I had my own room, and my two sisters did not. And it was like God reminded me of this. And I called my mom and I said, hey, was it Dan's idea to buy that big canopy bed? And she says, oh yeah. She said, you were the apple of his eye. And I just lost it. And now all of a sudden, all the memories of how he treated me because he believed in me, and he didn't know any other way. I mean, he was a broken, hurting man, but I could only see the hurt and the pain he caused in my life. And then all of a sudden it all came of like, wow, he was hard on me for my grades because he believed in me. He was hard on me because he loved me and he chose me. You see, they were receiving child support from me. And so when he made the decision to adopt me, that means they weren't getting that whatever, couple $100 a month from my biological father, which meant he chose to take in less money because he loved me. And he chose to give me his name because he loved me. And all my life up until that last summer, I saw that he hated me and he had something out for me and that I could never do right. But the fact is, man, another man taking on another man's child willingly to adopt, to put up with. He put up with my bad attitude as a toddler. He put up with my bad attitude as a teenager. It was his choice to put up with that because he loved me. So Graham, you have a bigger position in your daughter's life than you even know. And I know you feel like you've messed up, but the bottom line is if you communicate to her how much you love her and how much you believe in her, and that on that day, X amount of years ago, this piece of paper represents that I choose you, that I choose you. And I choose to stand in as your father because I adore you and I believe in you. And this is by a choice. You see, not all fathers become fathers by, a choice in that moment, meaning they have sex with a woman and they produce a child, but they're like, oh crap, I didn't think that was going to happen. Like, hello. But I'm simply just saying you made a volitional choice to take on another life and to lead and to put up with all kinds of crap because that's what we parents do. We put up with it and we still choose to love no matter what. So, and that's also what God does with us. That's exactly what he does with us. So adoption is so powerful and so special because it's a volitional choice and it's a big decision that's being made. It's not just a flippant, I'm going to go to bed with somebody and have a kid with them. It's a very big, big decision. Oh my gosh. So thanks, Graham, for calling in today, draining my body of excess liquid falling out of my eyes. The fact is that you're a blessing to that girl. And I'm going to pray that God really builds something so very special with you and her, and that you are able to maybe fill in some blanks that are not there even with her biological father, of the time that you have with her and teaching her to honor herself with how you honor her, even dating her and special talks with her and those moments where she will always say, this was my dad. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Stay right here for more of The Dani Johnson Show.
This is your chance. This is your shot. Get your copy of War on Debt right now. There's one waiting for you that has your family's name on it. And inside that package is freedom. Your freedom, your family's freedom is on the inside of that package. All you have to do is open it up, press play, and start applying what I teach you in this program. 888-757-8880. You and I are going to help your family become completely debt-free in the next 5 to 7 years. Just imagine how that's going to feel.
Hey everybody, my name is Digby and I'm from New South Wales, Australia, and I'm here live at First Steps to Success. I've been to 6 events now and my journey started with an encore in Brisbane, and after doing 2 encores in Australia I just really had to come to a live event, so here I am today. And since attending an encore and getting involved, my income has doubled and my family life is just blossoming. So you have to get there. You just have to experience it.
So 4 years ago in July, we showed up to our first Dani Johnson event, our first Steps to Success. And we were completely desperate in every area of our life. At the time, I thought it was just because of our finances, but then I figured out pretty quickly that it was because of my lack of people skills that we were where we were. we sat in the front row. We got fast track, and we sat in the front row right in the center next to some amazing people because we were so hungry, so desperate, so broken, and I pretty much cried through the entire event, honestly. And when she did the War on Debt, which she will show you, this afternoon, I went back immediately and got it. She had just started talking. I heard a couple stories, and I was like, if they can do it, I know we can do it. So we went back and got it and listened to it on the way home in the car, because we drove from Michigan all the way to Missouri. So we listened to it in the car, and when we got home, we immediately got our papers out. We wrote down our plan, and we started applying it. And within 14 months, we paid off over $62,000 worth of debt. We never in a million years thought that was possible. There's so much that has happened in the last 4 years, and I'm the person that wants the results immediately. I don't like the process of getting there. I want to just get there. But I've learned to appreciate the process over the last 4 years, and just seeing the transformation that has happened in us. Personally, we individually experienced different things, and we experienced a lot of things together. I was paying our bills. I was completely disrespectful to my husband and didn't really know how bad it actually was. And so that part of our life is still improving. I can say we're a work in progress. It takes time, and we have grown so much.
We showed up. My wife, I didn't know this at the time, but she was battling thoughts of suicide. I had no idea. I thought I was being a perfectly good husband. I did my best to serve her, be a great guy. But what she needed was somebody who would step up and be a leader in our marriage. That's not who I was. And I was totally emasculated, physically emasculated by, there was someone in our church, the pastor, and so we felt the brokenness of a church, having to leave and just hurt, and devastated. One of the biggest breakthroughs started in our marriage is when Lucy started being a wife to me. And I, as a leader, I should step up, right? Take action first, be the initiator. She did it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a completely different person. And I can tell you, our marriage has just, it's amazing, the difference between her feeling suicidal, me stepping down as a leader, to me taking the initiative and just looking her in the eyes and saying, honey, thank you for allowing me to be your leader. And she just melts every time. This is awesome. So. So let me just tell you this, guys. If you're struggling, or you're broke, you're wondering what your next step is, hey, just take action. Follow those notes that you just took. Take action and do it, because your story is going to be here, and people are going to be inspired by your story. So are you all ready to take notes? All right, let's do this. Help me welcome Miss Dani Johnson, America's favorite millionaire, to the stage.
And now, back to the Dani Johnson Show.
The bottom line, whether or not you have a family that is blended, or it is, the original mom and dad with the kids, regardless, the family's going to go through challenges. And of course, being in a blended family, there's more challenges than a family that maybe isn't blended. And then maybe not. Maybe the same challenges are in both. The bottom line, kids want to dishonor each other. And so do mom and dad, regardless if it's a blended family or not. Our job as parents is to make sure we plant honor into the next generation so we set them up for success moving forward. Our job as parents is to groom our children to understand how to handle conflict. And instead of being bitter and resentful pigs who hold grudges, who then stab people in the back, we choose honor. And we choose to forgive, and we choose to release the one that made us mad, and we choose to bless them. Why? Because we're brothers, or because we're sisters. And the bottom line is, regardless of what a piece of paper says, whether it's a step or a half or an adopted, the bottom line is we're all brothers and sisters in Him. In our Father in heaven, we're all His children, so we're all brothers and sisters. That's the bottom line. So we're talking about blended families today, the good, bad, and the ugly, and how to work through it. First, we've got Deana. Brown from New Hampshire. Deana, so you're a part of a blended family, or did you grow up in one, or do you have one now?
We have one now.
Okay. Okay.
We are 4 adults and 6 kids between both families.
Wow.
My ex-husband and I have a set of triplets that are 11.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
I know. And then we have my current husband and I, we have 2 daughters that are ages 6 and 16 months. And then my ex-husband and his current wife have a daughter that is 22 months.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm still stuck on the triplet thing. I'm so sorry. And my jaw's been wide open, like you could see my fillings from when I was 10. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So you had triplets and then you remarried and you had 2 more kids?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So yeah, that's a little complicated, isn't it?
Little bit.
So what's the biggest challenge?
To be honest, the biggest challenge was at the very beginning when this all happened. When we decided to get a divorce, that was back in 2009. We were up against a lot of conflict from a lot of other people, whether it was friends or family that just basically said that there was no way for us to make this work. And it was my mission to co-parent with my ex-husband because I didn't have a hatred towards him or anything of that nature. It was just we didn't work well together. So it was my mission to co-parent, and there were very much rocky times and moments, but I ended up finding, a husband, and he ended up finding a wife, and I feel as though both of us and all of the kids got the best of both worlds with the parents that are now in, because it's a situation where, I was asking my kids about this last night, just talking with them. They feel like they are fully supported with both sets of the families because we communicate all the time on every level.
Wow.
And on top of communicating on every level, we do things together because it's not about the 4 parents. It's about the kids. And because of our love for our kids, we make it work.
Wow. You know what's so interesting about that? Because I just kind of had this thought float through my head because this television show is on Christian television and also Christian radio. This is ruffling a few people's feathers. I can just feel it right now. They're like, oh, Dani, are you advocating divorce? No, I don't advocate divorce. Am I a divorced woman? Yeah, I failed in my first marriage, and it was a terrible thing. I should have never got married the first time. Hans and I have been together for 27 years. We've almost ended up divorced a couple of times. Scary, very, very scary. So I'm not an advocate of it. There's a lot of pain in it. But what I'm telling you, what I'm hearing right now from Deana is honor, which is biblical. So all y'all judgmental, self-righteous, so-called church-going people, you might want to catch yourself right now, because Deana is talking about the higher commandment, which is love. It's love. So for whatever reason that the marriage ended up in a divorce, the bottom line is that she's made the choice to love and honor the father of her daughters, all 3 of them, triplets. Dang. Deana, I respect you tremendously. Because you really did go for the higher calling, which is love, humility, and peace. And that's straight up biblical. It really is. And instead of being resentful and bitter, once you came to that place where I can't succeed in the marriage, then I better succeed in co-parenting. And that's incredible leadership. That really is. It's incredible leadership that the plan B, you're succeeding in greatly. And that's amazing. So same with your husband's ex, or does your husband have an ex? No, your husband has a new wife. You said there's 4 parents.
No, my ex-husband has a new wife.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Your new husband was not married before with children.
No.
Gotcha.
No.
That makes it a little easier. But you know what? Yeah. What an amazing man that would take on a woman with triplets. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Girl. That's an incredible guy. Will you hug his neck for me? Because that's an amazing man. We've got Melissa Heaton from Kentucky. Melissa, what about you?
Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Don't answer that.
I'm good. I've been sweating, but I'm good.
Well, you've been in some really good conversations, I hear.
Yes. So what about you? Do you guys have a blended family, or did you come from one?
So it's just me. I'm a single parent by choice. I did come from a blended family. Both parents had been married multiple times. I have a twin sister, half brother, plenty of steps. And then I became a single parent by myself. I adopted from China. And
I was going to say, how did you become a single parent by yourself?
Well, by myself.
Meaning you adopted a child.
Well,
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
I've adopted 3 children. So I have 2 from the States. They are a sibling group. And then I adopted from China before that.
Wow.
And I'm also a licensed therapeutic foster parent. So I've had 10 foster kids. So I've kind of run the gamut of, if it's been done, it's probably been in my family.
Dang. And so therefore you've got some high skill set of communication and conflict resolution and high emotions.
Well, yeah. Oh, and all of my kids, with the exception of one, have been girls. So lots of estrogen going on there. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
I think the biggest one was when I had teenagers in the house, and that was definitely different. My kids are younger than that, but
now, do you think that because there was lots of divorces in the household you grew up in, that is what's caused you to want to be single by choice?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was pretty much why. And what happened was I, kept dating and trying to find the one and all that stuff, and that didn't happen. And the one turned out to be the wrong one completely, because he cheated on me for 2.5 out of 3 years of our relationship. And at that point is when I said, maybe I don't need to be married to have a family.
That's right.
And,
Wow.
And it was definitely, I felt ordained at that time. Because that was at the beginning of December. And I had just started looking at adoption. And singles have a much harder time.
Yeah, they do. I honestly can't believe that you were able to adopt 3. I mean, that's really crazy. Well, you know what? My hat's off to you that you chose to be a single mom on purpose. And it's not a divorce situation. It's just been by your choice. This is Dani Johnson. We'll continue with more right after this.
Don't go away. The next segment might just change your life. It's the Dani Johnson Show.
The whole story of how I went from homeless to millions is right here in this book, First Steps to Wealth. I'd love to give you a free copy of this book. Just dial 888-757-8880. You can get your free copy of this book. It's like a real book, my friend. You can get an ebook copy for free right now, or if you'd like to pay the shipping to get this $15 book to your house, I'd be happy to send it to you. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of First Steps to Wealth today and begin on a brand new path of some great success. Imagine living in a decrepit, unsafe hovel made of waste material on top of old mining tunnels that could explode and sink your home at any moment. Imagine no water to drink, no safe place to raise your children, no food for your starving baby. Imagine that your kids can't learn to read because they have to work to support the family instead of going to school. Could you imagine living in that kind of fear and hopelessness? This is exactly what poverty-stricken families are dealing with in Nicaragua. These families can barely meet their basic needs of food, clean water, and safe housing. But a miracle is in the making, and you can be a part of transforming Nicaragua. Be a part of this miracle. I want you to go to the website now and learn how you can help. Go to kingsransom.org and click on Nicaragua. There you can join with other warriors against poverty and help bring a miraculous transformation. That's kingsransom.org, kingsransom.org.
More resources, more training, more results. The DaniJohnson.com Insider Membership is your ultimate success shortcut. Get exclusive access to reports, videos, audios, ebooks, cheat sheets, and other training for your personal and professional life. This is truly DaniJohnson.com's best kept secret. Become an Insider member today and get on the fast track to success.
I just heard this amazing story. One of our clients had written us telling us that they had used job domination and unlimited success and has absolutely exploded their career. He said, Dani, I don't know where I'd be today without job domination and unlimited success. Listen, do you want more recognition from your coworkers? Do you want to be recommended to people all over the world? Do you want to be somebody that is highly sought after? Listen, if you're in a dead-end place where this gentleman found himself, but then learned new strategies and changed everything in his work life, and obviously this has resulted in higher bonuses and pay raises, you're next. 888-757-8880. Get your copy of Job Domination right now. 888-757-8880. Again, 888-757-8880. Job Domination. That's what you need. It's time for you to dominate the job market and break through the rut that you're in.
Helping you become all you were meant to be. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
So, blended family or not, every day you got to make choices to honor if you're going to succeed in family. We've got Geraldine from BC, Canada. That's British Columbia. Yep. So, you have a blended family. Explain.
Oh, yes, I do. I have 4 of my own, in between 15 and 25. Mm-hmm. And then my husband has 6 from 16 to 27. Oh, and then we jointly adopted 3 children.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's like 12 kids?
13. We're not 13.
Oh my gosh.
We're finalizing the adoption of our last one. She's 10 months old. And we just decided to get together and
wow. That's amazing.
Fell in love and said, that's it. You know, this is where our life is going to be ending. And this is where it's beginning and ending. And you know, it's amazing.
Wow. Okay, so what would give me one tip that you guys have used with, all these stepkids, right? Because in all reality, there's a total of 10 stepkids and then 3 adopted, right? Because your 4 are his step and his 6 are your step, so that's 10 stepkids.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know? So what's one tip that you could say to somebody that's in a blended family situation that's helped it work for you?
Do not lead with your ego. Because there's going to be times when those stepkids are going to press your last nerve and you want to freak out and they're going to test you every step of the way.
Yeah.
But the moment that you say it's not about you, it's about how you represent yourself walking forward.
Yeah.
You show them how to be human, like how to be forgiving, amazing,
and humble
humans. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a strength that goes on between parents, especially step parents and biological parents, that you need to, in any marriage, you need to communicate it and being able to say something and not feel like you could be reprimanded for feeling this.
Yeah.
So my husband and I, we've talked till the sun came up about our feelings and about how we're feeling that day. So, you know, we've done this for almost 10 years. So it's been an amazing journey so far.
Wow. Good message, lady. That's amazing. Well, there you have it, friend. Oh my gosh. Hey, listen, if you're wanting some tips on how, whether you're blended family or not, but you want to have more success in that family, especially with communication and all the conflicts and the fighting, like how to disarm that dissension that happens with the kids, whether, again, if it's a step or adopted or it's all the same blood, doesn't matter. These issues come up. Grooming the next generation for success is a powerful training system. In fact, it starts with a book right here. Grooming the Next Generation for Success. It's a best-selling book. It's being taught internationally in universities all over the world. And why? Because it is simple and it works. From training up your kids to understand finances, to have the right mindset when it comes to work, or even finding out if you've got a young entrepreneur in your house and how to really train them up for succeeding in that, and training them up to succeed in their future relationships as a parent or a married person themselves. Don't cheat your kids by winging it. Get a hold of a manuscript that'll help. This is Dani Johnson. Thanks so much for joining us today. Goodbye. God bless.
If this episode was an encouragement to you, go to DaniJohnson.com and share it with your friends now. You never know who else needs to hear it. This has been The Dani Johnson Show. Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for more insights that will help you get to the life you've always wanted.